You ever notice how the people who break you walk around like nothing happened? Like they didn't leave cracks in someone's soul. Like they didn't twist trust into something ugly. Like they didn't create silence where there used to be laughter. They smile. They sleep peacefully. They shake hands, build reputations, climb higher, higher, higher. And you're left replaying moments in your head, wondering what you did wrong, carrying weight that was never yours to carry. But here's the funny thing about the world. It watches, quietly, patiently. And somewhere, at the very top, where masks don't work and lies don't breathe, a question has already been asked. Do you even know who you hurt? But not shouted, not whispered, just asked. Because the truth doesn't rush, it waits. And when it arrives, it doesn't knock politely. It tears everything open. You ever notice how some people move through the world as if their actions are weightless? Like they could crush someone, rip apart their life, and still float above it all without a scratch. They have this air of untouchable confidence, a kind of smug immunity that makes you question reality itself. They don't see the consequences of what they do, or maybe they just don't care. Every insult, every betrayal, every quiet, lingering humiliation, they treat it like it's nothing, like it's a part of someone else's story, not theirs. And the scary part, they believe it. They walk around convinced that the cracks they leave behind are invisible, that the damage is temporary, that the pain fades and everyone will just forget. But pain doesn't work that way. Pain doesn't vanish just because someone wants it to. Pain burrows in. It grows. It sits in the corners of your mind when you're trying to sleep. It laughs quietly at your attempts to move on. It waits in the reflection of your own face when you try to find the person you were before. And the ones causing it? They don't notice. They sip their coffee, shake hands, nod in meetings, and plan their next move like everything is clean and untouched. They don't see the shattered confidence, the sleepless nights, the little victories stolen from someone else's day. They don't see the fear in a glance or the hesitation in a step, because it's not their reflection staring back. It's funny, isn't it? The world keeps moving, and they keep moving with it, believing they are untouchable, unaccountable, invisible in their crimes. They smile while someone else is learning to navigate around the wreckage they created. They laugh while someone else counts scars that will never fully heal. And when someone finally speaks up, when someone finally stands and says, "You broke me," they respond with confusion, indignation, or denial, as if the world has betrayed them for noticing the truth. They are architects of chaos, engineers of subtle destruction. And yet they don't even recognize the evidence of their own handiwork. It's a dangerous kind of blindness. The kind that makes you question how the universe allows certain people to wander freely, while others carry the weight of invisible chains. They move on to the next opportunity, the next relationship, the next scenario where they can assert control, leaving a trail of invisible bruises and silent screams that nobody acknowledges, but the ones who bear them. It's almost poetic, really, the way they navigate life without ever acknowledging the life they've affected, the way they convince themselves that the world is theirs to play with, that consequences are for other people, that accountability is a story someone else wrote. And the irony. Eventually, the universe has a way of reminding even the most arrogant that no action is truly without consequence. But for now, they live in their illusion, untouchable, unaware, untethered from reality, believing they can step on souls and not feel the tremor of the damage they've caused, not realizing that every action leaves a mark. Every cruelty has a shadow, and every smile hides a fracture in the very foundation of someone else's world. They walk, they talk, they conquer, they charm, but the weight of what they've done doesn't vanish. It lingers, waits, watches, even if they don't see it. And you watch them, too, learning their rhythm, learning the way they think everything they touch is disposable, learning that their sense of invincibility is built on ignorance. And every move they make is a reminder that some people are monsters who've convinced themselves they are untouchable. Pain has a strange way of hiding in plain sight. The people who inflict it, the ones who twist words, break trust, and leave invisible scars, often move as if nothing happened. They don't notice the trembling hands, the forced smiles, the nights spent replaying moments like a cruel film, because in their world, nothing has weight. They don't feel the echoes of the chaos they leave behind. Every scream swallowed, every tear wiped away, every sense of safety shattered. It doesn't register. They treat life like a game of chess, moving pieces around without seeing the faces of the pawns, without imagining the cost of each step. And the cruelest part, they are certain that the world works the way they do. If they don't notice the damage, it doesn't exist. If they didn't feel it, it never happened. They walk through rooms, conversations, relationships, leaving tiny detonations in their wake and shrugging them off as nothing, like a magician hiding the truth behind a sleight of hand. The people around them, they feel everything. The hurt, the betrayal, the exhaustion of carrying wounds that were never theirs to bear. The victim lives in an invisible cage built from gaslighting, manipulation, and silence, while the abuser dances around freely, unaware that the locks have teeth, that the bars bend with tension, that the cage will one day crack. It's maddening, the way they can smile at dinner parties, close deals, laugh with friends, while someone else counts the pieces of a broken self that they left scattered on the floor. They think invisibility is safety, that ignorance is a shield, but the world has a memory. Every slight, every cut, every word thrown like a dagger leaves an imprint that doesn't fade. Pain has a stubborn persistence that mocks denial. You can pretend it isn't there, you can turn your back, you can bury it deep in laughter and distractions, but it lingers. It burrows under skin, lodges behind ribs, whispers in quiet moments, and reminds the ones who suffer that what happened was real, that it mattered, that the world is not as clean as the abuser believes. And the abuser, so convinced that their actions are meaningless, never realizes the full measure of the damage. They don't see the trembling, the hesitation, the careful choreography of someone learning to navigate life around the wreckage they caused. They don't see the sleepless nights, the thoughts circling endlessly, the hope that maybe, just maybe, the world will notice. And the world often does notice, quietly, subtly. The ripples of hurt spread, intersect with other lives, collide with chance and circumstance, until the illusion of harmlessness begins to crack. The person who thought themselves untouchable doesn't feel it yet, doesn't sense the slow accumulation of reckoning, the inevitable accounting for the chaos left behind. They move on, believing that life is a smooth road paved with ignorance, that the consequences are for weaker souls, that the pain of others is an optional side effect, never realizing that pain isn't optional. It is a force that waits, that grows, that whispers and waits some more. And somewhere in the shadows, someone keeps track. They remember the words that cut too deep, the hands that should have held but pushed away, the promises broken like glass underfoot. Pain, invisible to the one who caused it, is never invisible to the one who carries it. It speaks, it reminds, it refuses to dissolve into nothingness, and it waits patiently for recognition, for justice, for the moment when the silence of the abuser is broken by the weight of what they've done. Life has this quiet way of keeping score, a ledger no one sees until the time is right. The people who hurt, the ones who manipulate, cheat, or destroy without hesitation. They walk around thinking the world owes them nothing, and that they owe the world even less. They don't realize that every action, every cruelty, every sly manipulation leaves a mark somewhere, somehow on someone who will carry it for years, maybe decades. The world doesn't scream when injustice happens. It whispers. It whispers in the pause after a smile, in the hesitation of a step, in the way people hold their hearts a little tighter. in the way laughter becomes cautious. Those who cause pain rarely see it, because the world isn't always loud about what it's witnessed. It's subtle, patient, and precise. Life watches quietly like a predator circling unseen, noting patterns, counting cracks, cataloging damage. And when the time comes, the balance doesn't scream. It arrives in quiet, in moments that feel almost natural, almost inevitable. The one who believed themselves untouchable will suddenly notice that the ground they thought steady has begun to tilt. They will feel the weight of what they ignored for so long, but not all at once, not like a storm. It comes as a ripple first, a small tremor underfoot, barely noticeable, a whisper of the reckoning to come. And the world, it does not forget, it archives everything. Every sneer, every betrayal, every stolen moment of peace and joy. You can pretend, as they do, that actions are meaningless, that the damage is temporary, that life moves on as though nothing happened. But life has memory. The quiet ledger keeps tally, and the scores accumulate in ways invisible to the abuser. Sometimes it manifests as the subtle loss of trust, the hesitation in a handshake, the careful avoidance in conversation. Sometimes it comes through circumstance, ironic twists, chance encounters, or a simple truth revealed in an unexpected moment. Life is patient. It does not rush. It allows arrogance and cruelty to flourish for a time, letting the abuser dance and smile, letting them believe in their untouchability, all while building the weight that will eventually fall. And when it does, it is not violent, not theatrical. It is precise, calculated by the universe itself, delivered at the exact point where it cuts deepest. The ones who thought themselves immune to consequence rarely understand what hit them, because they never saw the quiet accumulation of small, unseen forces that led to it. They never noticed the countless tiny reactions, the small disappointments, the hidden awareness in others that eventually converge into reckoning. Life keeps score in whispers, in shadows, in the spaces between smiles. And the irony is delicious. Those who live without conscience, who believe themselves free from accountability, are always the last to realize that they are being watched, noted, tallied, and eventually held to account. Every slight, every cruelty, every injustice contributes to an invisible balance sheet, and no one, not even the abuser, can escape the final accounting. It doesn't matter how charming, powerful, or untouchable they appear to be. The ledger doesn't lie. The memory doesn't fade, and the world has an uncanny way of delivering justice when least expected, when their arrogance is at its peak, when they've convinced themselves that life owes them nothing, and that consequences are for others. The quiet observation of life, the subtle judgment of experience, the patient accumulation of every tiny effect builds slowly, methodically, invisibly, until the scales finally tilt, and the one who believed themselves above it all is forced to confront a truth they ignored for far too long. Power and success have a funny way of making people forget their own darkness. The ones at the top, the ones who climb, who negotiate, who charm and manipulate their way through every obstacle. They often act like their climb absolves them from every wrong they've done along the way. They believe that status, influence, money, or reputation are shields against accountability, that the higher they go, the less anyone notices the cracks they leave behind. They walk into rooms like kings of a kingdom built on illusions, smiling, nodding, shaking hands, signing deals, giving speeches, as if none of the lives they trampled along the way matter at all. And the truly dangerous part? They begin to believe it. They look in the mirror and see only triumph, only mastery, only the surface of a life that appears flawless. But power is a tricky thing. It blinds, it distorts, it amplifies the ego until the person at the top feels untouchable, untethered, untouchable even to the consequences that lurk quietly, patiently, just out of sight. And while they strut in their illusions, the damage they've caused festers in silence. The people they've hurt, friends, colleagues, lovers, strangers, carry invisible scars, scars that don't disappear just because someone built an empire on top of them. Every lie, every manipulation, every stolen opportunity, every betrayal leaves a shadow. And the higher the abuser climbs, the more impressive their facade, the more deceptive their sense of security, the less they notice the world keeping score. The world notices. It doesn't applaud, it doesn't cheer. It waits, it observes, it notes, it whispers in the right ears, in the right places, at the right times. And the irony is exquisite. The very power that made them believe themselves above reproach is the same power that isolates them, that blinds them to the fact that the truth has a way of sneaking past the velvet curtains, past the guarded doors, past the smiles of colleagues who nod but remember. Influence can't erase memory, success can't bury accountability, status can't mask guilt, and charm can't rewrite the ledger of hurt they've left behind. And yet, they continue. They continue believing that they are untouchable, that their climb exempts them from the fallout, that no one will dare to question their triumphs or their methods. They believe themselves invisible, above human consequences, above moral law, above judgment. But the universe has a way of reminding even the most arrogant that nothing, no matter how polished, is impervious. The cracks are there, hidden beneath the layers of prestige, hidden beneath the applause, hidden beneath the carefully constructed smile, and eventually those cracks widen. They widen slowly, imperceptibly at first, then with the subtle inevitability of a storm rolling over a city, until the foundation they believed unshakable begins to tremble. The higher they climb, the more precarious their position becomes, because the weight of the lives they've affected accumulates, presses, pushes, and finally, it asserts itself in ways they never anticipated. No status, no fortune, no title can erase the echoes of those they've hurt. And the most delicious part of it all is that those echoes have a way of reaching ears they never expected to hear them, reaching eyes that finally see, reaching hands that are ready to hold them accountable. The very power that made them think themselves untouchable is the same power that makes the reckoning so much more striking, so much more inevitable, and so much more personal than they ever imagined. The truth is patient. Oh, so patient. It doesn't rush, it doesn't scream. It doesn't need an audience to validate it. It waits in the corners. It lingers in the shadows. It watches while people run around pretending they're untouchable, pretending their lies and manipulations will never catch up. The people who hurt others, the ones who step on lives like stepping stones to climb higher, they don't see it, not at first. They think the world is chaotic, that consequences are random, that accountability is a myth invented by those too weak to play the game. They don't understand that the truth is methodical, slow, deliberate. It studies every move, remembers every word, counts every tear, notes every tremble, catalogs every scar left behind in silence. And while they laugh, while they sleep easy at night, while they celebrate victories built on others' pain, the truth is already biding its time. It doesn't hurry. Impatience is for fools. It grows quietly, steadily, like a shadow stretching across the floor of a room they thought was theirs alone. They believe themselves untouchable, immune, above consequence, and that's what makes it so delicious. Because the more they believe in their invincibility, the more satisfying the revelation will be when it finally arrives. And it will arrive. The truth has a way of moving through life like a ghost, unseen but undeniable, slipping into conversations, seeping into situations, surfacing in moments they think are unrelated, moments that seem harmless, ordinary, mundane. And when it does, it strikes with precision, not with noise. It doesn't need theatrics, because the damage has already been done by the years of negligence, arrogance, and cruelty that preceded it. Those who live in denial of the hurt they've caused will feel it all at once, a slow burn that starts as a whisper and grows into a roar, a reckoning that cannot be escaped. And here's the beauty of patience: the longer the truth waits, the more prepared it is, the sharper it is, the more inescapable its presence becomes. Every attempt to hide, to justify, To manipulate reality only gives it more material, more leverage, more weight to press down when the moment comes. They will never see it coming in the way they expect. They will never anticipate the precise timing, the quiet inevitability, the way the world shifts just enough to reveal what has always been there, lingering beneath their carefully constructed illusions. And the people they thought they had broken, the ones they thought powerless, those lives carry the truth like a seed planted in darkness. It grows slowly, subtly, nourished by resilience, by memory, by the understanding that harm leaves traces that cannot be erased. And when it surfaces, it doesn't need to shout. The truth doesn't need to explain itself. The truth doesn't need permission. The truth is the weight that presses down on arrogance, the shadow that exposes lies, the quiet judge that waits for the perfect moment to tilt the balance. It is patient because it knows the abuser cannot outrun it. It is patient because it knows the world notices, even when the world seems silent. It is patient because it understands that time is its ally, that silence is its weapon, that observation is its shield. And while the ones who caused the hurt continue their charade, continue to believe that their power, their charm, their influence, their success protects them, the truth is already threading its way through reality, unseen, unstoppable, inevitable, sharpening its edge, remembering every slight, every betrayal, every twisted smile, every unacknowledged scar, every stolen moment, and it waits for the moment when patience has been rewarded, when preparation meets opportunity, when inevitability arrives quiet, deadly, and unstoppable. Questions at the top have a way of cutting deeper than any blow ever could. When someone who sits above the chaos, someone who has the perspective, the power, the vantage point to see what most people miss, asks the right question, it changes everything. The abuser, the one who thought themselves untouchable, the one who moved through life like their actions were meaningless, suddenly feels the ground shift beneath them. They don't see it coming because questions don't announce themselves with fanfare. They arrive quietly, subtly, but with the precision of a scalpel. Do you know who you hurt? It's simple, almost polite, almost harmless until it isn't. Until it lands where it was meant to land. In the mind, in the conscience, in the carefully built facade that hides the cracks and fractures they've left behind. And the beauty of it is, it doesn't matter if they answer. The mere act of the question being asked, of recognition being directed toward their misdeeds, begins to erode the walls they've constructed. They start to squirm in ways they didn't anticipate. They begin to feel things they've long ignored. They begin to notice the trembling hands, the forced smiles, the careful avoidance, the stories whispered in hallways, the eyes that no longer look at them the same way. And the ones who were silent, the ones who bore the weight of cruelty in quiet, the ones who masked their pain for years, feel the tremor of acknowledgement. It validates what they knew, what they survived, what they endured. And the abuser, they can't run from it, not really. The higher they've climbed, the more their visibility amplifies the question, bouncing it off walls of prestige, influence, and reputation. It echoes, it resonates. It refuses to be ignored. Questions at the top are dangerous because they carry authority. They carry weight. They carry attention. They don't just seek answers. They demand reflection, even if the reflection is resisted. The person who thought themselves untouchable begins to realize that power cannot shield them from awareness, that success cannot erase impact, that influence cannot hide consequence. And it is in that realization, subtle as it may start, that panic begins to creep in. They feel the ledger of their actions, the invisible tally of harm, pressing against their carefully maintained confidence. They start to question their own narrative. Were they really in the right? Did they really deserve the victories they claimed? Did anyone ever see them for what they were, or only the mask they wore? And the most delicious part is that the question doesn't need an answer to do its work. It plants a seed that grows in silence, nourished by guilt, by reflection, by the creeping awareness that their actions are no longer invisible, that their deeds have been catalogued, observed, remembered. And the higher they sit, the more precarious that seat becomes, because the question travels, it spreads, it seeps into conversations, into whispers, into reports, into eyes that have been watching, taking note, waiting. It spreads like wildfire in the underbrush of the world they thought they controlled, and suddenly, the very edifice they believed secure begins to feel shaky. Their influence, their charm, their control, all of it becomes brittle under the weight of awareness, under the precision of a question that pierces the veil. And the ones who bore the brunt of their cruelty, who endured the invisible wounds, feel a shift too. They feel the first tremor of acknowledgement, the first flicker of justice, the first subtle indication that the world is noticing, that their pain is no longer ignored, that someone who matters, has finally asked the question that changes everything. The abuser senses it even if they try to hide it, even if they try to laugh it off, even if they try to convince themselves it's just curiosity, just idle speculation. They feel the pressure of scrutiny, the exposure of hidden deeds, the unmasking that begins with something as simple, as elegant, and as terrifying as a question. Reckoning doesn't announce itself. It doesn't send invitations. It doesn't knock politely. It doesn't wait for consent. It comes quietly at first, like a shadow creeping across a floor, subtle, patient, inevitable. The people who hurt, the ones who stomped on lives as if consequences were optional, they never see it coming. They believe themselves untouchable, above morality, above scrutiny, above the quiet laws of cause and effect that govern the rest of the world. They think the chaos they've created will dissolve into nothing, that the pain they've caused will evaporate like mist at dawn, that the world is too busy to notice, too distracted to care, too polite to confront them. But the world notices. The ledger keeps tally. The whispers accumulate. Every betrayal, every stolen joy, every manipulation, every silent cruelty is remembered, noted, and stored away, waiting for the precise moment when it can be revealed, exposed, felt in a way that cannot be ignored. And the ones who have inflicted pain, they walk around confident, smug, smiling, as if power, charm, and influence create immunity. They don't feel it yet. They don't see it. They believe themselves untouchable, invincible, untethered from the consequences of their own actions. But reckoning doesn't need to be loud to be devastating. It grows slowly, methodically, like a storm building far out at sea, gathering strength, gaining momentum, waiting for the exact moment when it can strike with full force. It doesn't matter how high the abuser has climbed, how many accolades they have collected, how many hands they have shaken or smiles they have charmed. All of that is surface. All of that is fragile. The deeper truths, the hidden ledger of harm, the invisible scars carried by those they have hurt, those are the foundation of reckoning. And when it arrives, it doesn't negotiate. It doesn't reason. It doesn't ask politely. It doesn't give warnings. It simply imposes itself. The very arrogance that made them believe in their untouchability becomes the perfect stage for collapse. Every lie, every manipulation, every act of cruelty comes to light in ways they never imagined. It doesn't matter if they have forgotten or denied, if they have rationalized or minimized. The reckoning has no patience for excuses. It is precise, deliberate, and unavoidable. And there is something delicious in the timing, in the inevitability, in the way the world waits until the abuser is fully confident, fully secure, fully convinced that they are beyond reproach, before it begins to unravel everything they thought untouchable. The fear that creeps in at first is subtle, almost imperceptible, a quiver in the spine, a flicker in the eye, a doubt in the mind, and then it grows. Doubts become questions. Questions become guilt. Guilt becomes awareness. Awareness becomes exposure. And the higher they built themselves, the louder the echo of their reckoning. The people who suffered in silence, who masked their pain, who endured in secret, Those lives converge, those voices merge, and the damage, once invisible, now presses down on the abuser like a weight they cannot escape. And the irony is exquisite. The very traits that made them dangerous, the arrogance, the manipulation, the belief in invulnerability, are now the traits that make the reckoning so much more devastating. They cannot charm it away. They cannot climb over it. They cannot negotiate with it. It exists beyond their control, beyond their influence, beyond the reach of their cleverness. It moves with the precision of inevitability, the patience of time, and the inevitability of consequence. And as it presses, as it closes in, as it unmasks and exposes, the abuser feels the first taste of what they inflicted on others, the first inkling of the fear, confusion, helplessness, and despair that they once caused. The ledger is no longer silent. The shadows are no longer empty. The reckoning has arrived, and it does not care about titles, influence, wealth, charm, or power. It only cares that balance, long ignored, has a voice, and it will not be denied.